Asia is the cradle of civilizations, ancient cultures, traditions and religions. It is the largest continent and home for half of the planet's population. It is a dynamically developing part of the world, which many people consider a dynamic force for world development. Historically, economically, politically and socially heterogeneous, Asia has always been a complicated continent. It concealed the ties of conflicts and contradictions. The attempts to unite them still have not given any ponderable results. Great politicians have repeatedly aspired to cover the continent with one unified security system. All these initiatives have added to the chronology of international diplomacy failures. Too many varied interests are concentrated here. Against this backdrop, any new proposal for forming a united Asian mechanism for cooperation may certainly be called ambitious and risky. This very offer was the first initiative of a sovereign Kazakhstan. In 1992, at a UN General Assembly meeting, Nursultan Nazarbayev, head of a republic little known at that time, stated the necessity to launch the process of a conference on interaction and confidence-building measures in Asia, the structure of which should have become the Asian analog of the CSCE. Heterogeneity of an economic and political foundation naturally hampers creation of a continental structure for collective security. But this well-known wise saying may challenge this. A road of 1,000 steps begins with the first step. Nursultan Nazarbayev stated that. We in Asia live in a wonderful land. All the great world religions, Judaism, Buddhism, Christianity and Islam were born in the sacred lands of our continent. All of the spiritual teachers of humanity, from Lao Tzu, Gautama Buddha, Jesus Christ and Mohammed, to the greatest mind of the present on the level of Mahatma, were natives of our lands. Won't Asia be able to comprehend what was accumulated for centuries and synthesized the new concept of continent cooperation and collective security? This position in no way proposes any regional autarky. We do not isolate ourselves within the borders of the continent. Just the opposite, we will collect all the best that has appeared in other parts of the world for the sake of the states and nations of Asia.
В 1992 года, озвученная нашим президентом, за эти годы получила практическое воплощение. Но я бы хотел сказать относительно того, каков был исторический контекст, когда родилась эта идея.
The idea our president gave publicity to in 1992 was practically embodied, but I would like to speak of the historical context when this idea was born. Firstly, Kazakhstan was a new state in the world community. On the other hand, Kazakhstan was a nuclear power. It possessed the world's fourth greatest nuclear potential. At that moment, the president of Kazakhstan declared the denuclearized status of our country. It was a very powerful political decision which won wide international recognition. At the same time, if you remember the 90s and the numerous conflicts occurring on the Asian continent, issues concerning security of the Asian continent required the creation of some kind of platform for dialogue. Summing up the prospects for developing these forms of dialogue and the platforms for discussion of security issues, the President offered the idea of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia.
Разных площадок для обсуждения проблем безопасности, президент предложил эту идею СМД.
In 1992, proving the vitality of the idea of the conference was a matter for the future decade. But practically the only speech at that time concerning the 21st century could not go unnoticed. The head of the young independent state spoke on transformation of the very concept of security. The 20th century, in which mankind lived under the sign of superpower and military bloc confrontations, and infixed in people's consciousness the concept of security as, more than anything else, a military political problem. But things got more complicated on the verge of the new century. Every day, security becomes a more delicate and sensitive matter, depending also on the successful solution of socio-economic, ecological and energy problems. I am sure that we need a joint search of the best ways to adapt to future challenges and forming a new basis for the existence of humankind in the conditions of an integrated world, Nursultan Nazarbayev concluded in his speech. The example of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia reflects a new approach, a kind of deviation from division into blocks towards a network diplomacy. I think it is a real reflection of the present. But it wasn't like that at the moment when the President of Kazakhstan declared it. It is the ability to think beyond.
На сегодняшний день это очень серьезные вопросы. И в рамках азиатских...
These are very important issues for Asian states for the time being. The number of members in our organization and the interest given by the observer states are evidence of this. I propose that the conference has a very good potential for serving peace and stability in the region.
Стабильности и мира в регионе.
Появились новые вызовы и угрозы. Это международный терроризм, наркотрафик, пиратство, транснациональное...
New challenges have appeared. International terrorism, drug trafficking, piracy and transnational criminal activity all require attention. The conference pays attention exactly to these issues, and I think that the arguments gained within the framework of this organization give grounds to think that we should continue working, coping and overcoming these threats, dangers and challenges.
И с этими угрозами, с этими вызовами и опасностями мы будем продолжать работать, справляться и преодолевать.
The UN leadership immediately stated their readiness to assist in accomplishing the idea of the conference. In 1993, several representatives of the UN member states met twice specifically to discuss how to accomplish the idea of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia. First of all, they spoke of the necessity of moving ahead gradually and in a balanced measure. A bright and multipolar Asia wouldn't stand for fuss. In some issues, positions were a bit different. For example, regarding the format of the new process, some thought that all Asian states should be involved, others offered to count on only the states actively supporting and participating in the process of the conference, of which there were 16 at that moment. It was clear at the beginning stage that the structure would be formed along the lines of the CSC and that the mechanism for interstate interaction would work in compliance with the principles stated in United Nations Organization regulations. First of all, this talks about the sovereign equality and non-intervention in internal affairs of the states, non-use of force, cooperation in all spheres, and of respect of human rights. Subsequently, these principles have become a part of the fundamental documents of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia and one of the constituents of this interstate structure's success.
За эти годы, конечно, эта идея обрела практическую мощь.
Of course, during these years, the idea has acquired political power, and if speaking about what has been actually achieved, I can tell you that new members are joining the conference today. The United Arab Emirates, Jordan, will join the conference on August 25 in Almaty. Thus, the number of member states of the organization will be 21. I should note that such large states as Russia, China, India and Pakistan are also members of the conference. I would like to note that there are circumstances in which several Arab states and Israel participate in the activities of the conference. The joining of the new states to the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia is evidence that the organization is required, that it has great international interest and that there is a practical interest in its activities. In addition to that, it must be said that in December 2007, the conference obtained observer status at the United Nations General Assembly, which means that it has been recognized internationally. The first important event in the evolution of the conference process took place in 1999. The ministers of foreign affairs of the member states met in Almaty for the first time. A declaration of principles regulating relations between the member states of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia was signed during the meeting. It was the moment of truth, the first incontestable evidence of success of the Kazakhstani leaders' initiative. It was the first legal basis for Asian security in the history of international relations. 3 years later, the Almaty Act, signed by the heads of states, were added to the important documents of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia. The summit, a meeting at the highest level, took place in 2002. It was the first, but it immediately showed that the conference is an effective platform when searching for compromises. The whole world was watching the rare moment when the heads of states that had been in conflict for over half a century, India and Pakistan, Palestine and Israel, sat at the same table. The leaders were not very friendly towards each other, but they sat down at one table and signed the same documents. Later in 2004, a catalogue of confidence-building measures in Asia was adopted at the next meeting of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs. This is an important paper of the conference and is considered to be the largest and most significant in the history of the whole Asian continent. This is in spite of its size. Everything proposed to be done for the sake of consolidation of confidence between the countries in 5 fields: military, political, economic, ecological, humanitarian, as well as in the field of new challenges and threats, was listed on only 3 pages. Work on the catalogue of confidence-building measures once again proved the viability of the conference as a platform for establishing the dialogue so required by all.
The first steps that have been taken are in the area of evolving the CBMs, confidence-building measures, and particularly in the area of commercial and economic and energy and environment and transportation areas, because these are the most important areas which will evolve and develop linkages between the different member countries. So once this is done and once different countries become stakeholders in each other's progress, in each other's stability, I think there will be greater peace, there will be greater stability in this region. So I think the way that we have started in terms of organizing CBMs and meetings in economic areas, that is a very good way.
Ten years later, the member states came to the conclusion for the necessity of institutionalization of the process and opening of the administrative body in the structure of the conference. The agreement of the Secretariat of the conference was signed at the second summit by the heads of the states in 2006. The administrative body of the conference is located in Almaty on a continuing basis, which is of great importance for development of the forum. In general, analyzing the long path of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia, world political scientists admit that this form of interstate interaction is required. This can be judged by the fact that none of the member states has expressed a desire to quit the Congress. Just the opposite, the list of member states is expanding, which is recognition of the constructive work of the forum. An equal dialogue, a search for common ground instead of regulating interstate conflicts, a discussion of the problems bothering all states, this unobtrusive form of interaction arouses great interest today. The work of the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia is watched all across the Asia-Pacific region. Saudi Arabia, Syria, Oman, Japan, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Brunei are a few of the numerous countries which are either observers or are seriously thinking of acquiring this status and even becoming full members of the conference. Among the observers are countries representing other continents and another hemisphere. International organizations also observe the process. Increasing efficiency and vital capacity are features that may be called the main success of the conference. It is not a nominal vital capability, but is expressed as an aspiration for the cooperation of the organization's member states. In my opinion, it is now necessary to implement this aspiration to the maximum extent possible in concrete trade, economic, energy and other projects. The indisputable fact is that the efficiency of the Asian dialogue mechanism has been recognized in the whole world. The conference has become an important factor for modern international relations. Even though it is young, the Interstate Forum is making a significant contribution in strengthening Asian security and stability, and ultimately in strengthening global security and stability.
Как показывает современный опыт,
The modern experience shows that it is almost impossible to solve regional, continental and global problems of security. That's why we say that the Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia is a good platform for dialogue, but the conference should also interact with other collective organizations, such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Eurasian Economic Union, and of course with the OSCE, the Organization for Economic Cooperation, ASEAN, and others. 16 years have passed since the idea was pronounced in 1992 till the present, till the Council of Ministers of Foreign Affairs, which will take place on August 25th in Almaty. From a practical point of view, I can say that the organization firmly stands on its feet. I hope that its relevance and requirement will only increase with time.